Hi, I'm Jeremy Krauss. Welcome to everybody that's watching. I'm going to give a short demonstration that you should participate in as well of an introduction to JKA Solvents and Glue. I'm going to go over the basic swing. This is the fundamental of solvents and glue, of which everything else revolves around and develops out of after this basic movement of what I call the swing. So here we go. Find a place on the floor that's comfortable for you. You can be with socks, without. If you're more comfortable with shoes, please feel welcome to use whatever shoes are good for you. I'm going to turn myself at a different angle towards the screen, so it's easier for you to see what I do. It's not a question of copying me, but just to get an image that you're really on pace with the things that we're doing, and you can see how it's done to a certain degree. You stand with your feet more or less parallel, more or less even. Stand comfortably and see what that feels like to stand. And take a step forward with one leg. And just shift your weight, very basic, from one leg to the other. So you go from back leg to the front leg. People do this in very, very different ways. We'll explore a few. I'll just say a few. Some people take the whole body and rock forward and backwards so they tilt themselves. Some just slide the pelvis somewhat forward and back. Some actually go at a diagonal when they shift the weight, or maybe some other way that you happen to do it. Whatever way is fine. You may feel that you come more onto your back leg than more onto your front leg. That's also fine. Stand once again with your feet evenly on the floor. Change over your legs. And do the same thing. And on this side, you might also do it very differently. That's also fine. You can go slow, you can go fast, however you do it. And if you feel you can do it a few ways, you're welcome to try a few different ways. Come back and stand. And now, very gently, easily, just let your knees bend, go down a little bit, and return. You don't have to go down into a squat or anything. Just however much you bend. It can be very little, it can be more. Whatever is just happens to you more or less spontaneously when you go down and you return. Notice what you feel like in the ankles and the knees. Maybe if you can notice where your hip joints are, what that feels like doing that. And one more time. And come back and stand. And once again, take one leg forward. And now what I want you to do is what we will do together, is that you'll shift your weight. And as you shift your weight, I want you to lift the front of your front foot and then put it back down. However you do that. Lift the front of your front foot and then just put it back down. Okay? And people do this very differently. I'm going to rock my whole self forward and backwards so you can exaggerate it a little so you get the idea of moving forwards and backwards. And now what I want you to do is, as you go forward and put the front foot down, bring your weight so you sort of tilt your upper body more over your front leg. It's not a question of bending the knees. Leave your knees straight. And now, keeping yourself where more of the weight is directed towards the front leg, do the same thing. So you shift your weight towards the back leg. So you have to go so you can lift the front of the foot, but leave the weight on the front leg. So you see, I rock a little bit. I actually take my head a little bit more forward. So I don't shift. Certainly there will be a tiny bit more weight on the back leg, but the majority is over the front leg. If you have to go a little bit more backwards, that's not a problem. Go right ahead and do it. Leave the front foot down. Bring your weight more into the back leg. Leave your leg straight and do the same thing. So you can come a little bit forward, but the majority of the weight stays in your back leg. I could exaggerate and really stay behind, just sort of tap my foot down, or I could go a little bit down. You can breathe easily when you do that. And come back and stand. In the pauses between going on to the next movement, you can notice you're standing or just take a breath or just take a pause. Any way is fine. Change over the legs. And now do the same thing. Lift the front foot and return. And however you do it, you can shift your weight forward and backwards. You can stay in the middle. Just notice how you spontaneously do it when you lift the front foot up. I'll exaggerate how I do it a little bit. I wouldn't do it in any specific way. And now what I want to do is the next time I put the foot down on the floor, what you'd like to do is bring the weight so you tilt your upper body a little bit more over the front leg. Leave it there as much as you can and keep on doing the movement of lifting the front foot. Okay, the toes. So you come onto the heel and return. You come onto the heel and return. Leave the foot on the floor, shift your weight into your straight back leg, and continue doing the same thing with the front of the front foot. Lift it up. You can lift also the toes and put them back down. You can go quickly or slowly. You can tap it if it makes it easier, but the weight stays on your back leg as much as you can. And leave that. Come and stand. Take a breath. Some of you, even after that, you can notice different changes. Some will feel they stand more a little bit on the heel or a different part of the foot. Some feel absolutely nothing. And you can notice the changes as we will go along. Change over your legs once again. And now, what I want you to do is shift your weight forward and back. And as you do that, lift your heel from the floor of the back leg and return. And the same way that we did it before, at the beginning, do it however comes to you spontaneously. You could say naturally, without forethought. I'm rocking myself so you get a better image. I'm exaggerating that a little bit, forward and backwards. And now, like we did when we lifted the front of the foot, I'm going to tilt myself so my weight comes more on my front foot, my front leg, and do the same thing and leave it there. And even as I put my heel down, to do something a little bit different in my hip joints and my back. If your heel doesn't come all the way down, you can either leave it a little bit in the air and keep on lifting and lowering, or you can certainly bring your weight a little bit backwards, trying to keep the weight over the front leg. Great. Shift your weight now into the back leg. Keep the leg straight and do the same thing. Some will feel as if they're pushing themselves up, pressing into the toes of the back leg. That's fine. However much you do, however much you lift is also fine. Good. Come and stand once again. Take a breath. Wait a moment in standing. Change over your legs. And once again, do this movement of shifting your weight forward and back. And as you shift forward, lift the back heel, straight legs on both legs straight. And however you do it, I can do it a different way here. I'll tilt a little bit one way and then rock myself as I go forward and back. So there's many, many different ways to do this. Now, the next time, tilt your whole upper body a little bit forward so it comes more over the front leg, the weight, and lift the back heel, put it back down on the floor. If you feel movements in the ankles, or just in the toes, or the hip joint, or your whole body just rocks, that's all fine. Shift your weight into your straight back leg. So more of the weight is on the back leg than on the front, and do the same thing. Really simple. If it only comes up a little, that's fine. If you feel you have to push harder and bring the weight a little bit forward, fine, but still try to feel that you're the majority of the weight stays on the back leg, and return. Great. And come and stand. And now, in this particular standing that we've done, see what it's like to go back to what we did earlier of just bending the knees, and see if when you bend the knees now, it's a little bit different. There's a little bit more movement, maybe in the ankles, maybe in the knees, maybe the knees go a little bit lower, or you actually, some people that didn't feel before, maybe they feel something in the hip joints going down. Right. Okay. Come and stand. We'll do one more with the legs straight. Then we'll take a little bit of walk around and we'll see what it feels like in terms of the walking. So take one of your legs forward again. So you have this distance between the two legs. And what I want you to do now is once lift the front foot, and then once lift the heel of the back foot. So you sort of rock yourself between the two. You don't have to wait. Lift the front of the foot as you're putting the heel down. You can go between the two, one and the other. One and the other. And here as well, you can see I'm taking my whole body with me, so you can see visually that's possible. However you do it is fine. This is the spontaneous way, whatever you find yourself doing, to do this. And now, like we did in the previous exercise, as you come forward, you put the front foot down, tilt your weight so it comes more on the front leg, and leave the weight there and go back and forth between lifting the heel and the front of the foot and lifting the heel. Lift the front of the foot, lift the heel. Certainly you go backwards, but see if you can leave more of the pressure in the weight, or the tilting of the body stays more forward. If it's awkward, if it's smooth, any way you do it is fine. And now shift your weight into the back leg more and do the same thing. If you move more of your pelvis, this is fine. Or if you push up and then down, also fine. Or you tilt backwards, however you do it is fine. Just leave the weight more on the back leg. You can exaggerate it or not, is fine. Come and stand. Find your way onto the both legs again. See what that feels like through the whole trunk. Take a breath. Change over your legs. And once again, straight legs. Lift the front of the front foot and lift the heel. Front of the front foot and lift the heel. And have your weight, so you're tilted more over the front leg, and continue to do the same thing, rocking between the two. You can see I keep my head and my trunk very much forward. Certainly I feel some weight going into the back leg, but the majority stays on the front. One or two more times. And then come, the next time you put your heel down, shift your weight into the back leg and continue. Heel up, front foot down, weight stays behind, back and forth. Notice your breathing can continue easily. Don't stress it. Let your chest be soft. And come and stand. It's enough. And we'll go back to the bending of the knees and see what that's like now. And see, maybe you go a little bit further down. With myself, I feel after doing this, my ankles bend more, my knees are easier, I feel my quadriceps softer, and I go farther down spontaneously. And in the coming back up, I actually feel more of the whole foot on the floor and the heel. And it feels nice to go down and return. Stand. And now take a walk around and see what your walking is like. Some may feel that the knees lift a little more, or softer in the feet, or the toes, or the ankles, or the hip joints maybe bend a little bit easier. Whatever you find, whatever you feel, whatever you sense and notice, it's absolutely fine. Come back to your place. And once again, just notice this bending of the knees, the ankles, directions of your knees. And take a step forward, feet on the floor, and in this position, bend your knees and return. And notice how very different this is than lifting the front of the foot and the heel, or bending your knees when both feet are parallel. Some make more of an emphasis on the knees, some use the hip joints, some use the ankles more. Let's see what that's like. Come and stand. Change over your legs. Start off with straight legs and then bend the knees here. Notice here, if your weight is distributed evenly or you feel more over one leg than the other. And return to standing. Take a breath. Notice you're standing. Whatever that has a meaning for you, the pelvis, the gluteals. Take a step forward. Let your knees bend. And now with the feet on the floor, shift your weight between one leg, the back leg, and the front leg. And you can do it any way. You can have your knee go very far forward, very far backwards. You can just do a very small movement back and forth. You can spread your legs more if you like, if that's easier for you. And just go a little forward and a little backwards. If you feel one leg straightening, it's also fine. See if you can keep the knees bent and just go forwards and backwards, however you do that. Great. Come and stand. Change over your legs. Bend your knees. And once again, you shift the weight forward and backwards, or forward and backwards. When you go forward and you go backwards, you can listen to different parts of yourself. Some are just trying to get the movement organized, to feel what to do. Others can pay attention more to the pressure on the feet or the toes, or where their knee goes, or the ankle, or the hip joint, or what they do in their gluteal muscles or their upper body. Little backwards, little forwards. And come and stand. See what that's like. So in the solvents and glue, there's always a buildup of one element to the other. One builds upon the other. So there's a progression of how to get towards something and how other things get smoother, more flexible, how you isolate certain parts so that the next step can be taken. So up till now, we've done the lifting of the feet, we've done bending of the knees, we've done shifting in the weight in different ways. Now, I'm going to add more of a movement of the pelvis and see how we develop this into what I call, and I introduced it at the beginning, the swing. So come back, stand with your feet mostly parallel, and let your knees bend. Once again, it could be after the shifting of the weight, you feel it also easier. However you do it is fine. You don't have to go low, but stay with the knees bent. And now you can put one hand on your lower back of the hand if you can, one hand on your belly. And I want you to do a movement with your pelvis so that your lower back gets a little bit flatter, okay? The belly comes in a little bit, and then the opposite. The belly can go out if you can allow it. You make an arc in the back. So you don't have to have your hands. It's just to feel that this is the movement that's done. I can change my hands if this gives something better visually for you. Back and forth. And you see, I'm not going up and down and up and down. If this happens to you, is fine. But see if you can take a position and just do the movement easily. If you feel it strains you, then you can go up and down a little bit to see how to do that. Back and forth. Your pubic bone in your area comes closer to your breastbone. And then another way to think about it is they go farther away from each other. Closer and farther away. Very good. Stand. Take one step forward. Okay. Let your knees bend. And in this position, do the same thing. Same type of a movement. So the knees are bent now. You're going to step forward and you do the same thing. And notice it's a very different movement because the weight distribution, the positions of the hip joints are different. One side of the belly and back will work different. You can feel, if you like to, one hand or the other. Both hands you can put in front, both hands behind. And stand. Change over your legs. Let your knees bend. You can use your hands or not, and we do the same movement. You stay with your knees bent. Some will start to move up and down a little bit. This is fine, but just notice this is what is in solvents and glue. As we go along and we build further and further, one of the aspects is what I would call more isolatory movements, meaning that I can keep one area in place, which means that my knees, my ankles, a certain amount bent, and move. Now it is the pelvis. Certainly I could go up and down, but this changes the way the muscles work in the quadriceps and the hamstrings, the front of the legs and behind, and also down towards the feet. And come and stand. Change over the legs once again. And bend the knees. And now what I want you to do is we're going to go back and start to do what we did earlier in terms of the lifting of the feet. Lift with the knees bent a little bit, lift the front foot, and then lift the heel. And let yourself go back and forth with the knees bent now. Put the feet down, just a small little element. Go back to the movement of the pelvis. Flattening the lower back, a little bit the belly in, belly out. And now as you start to do this, what I want you to do is I want you to shift your weight forwards and backwards and lift the front of the foot and the heel. Okay? And there's different ways to do this, but see when you go forward, lift the heel, put the front foot down. If you can put the belly in, flatten the back. And as you go backwards into the back leg, you make an arch in the back and lift the front foot. And you swing and you rock back and forth. If you go up and down a little, this is fine. If you go very far forward and backwards to do this, however you do it is fine. If you want to get your weight more off one leg and stay over the front leg or stay more over the back leg, also fine. But see if you can find this swing of the pelvis, back and forth, and back and forth. Great. And come and stand. Some people, after doing the initial swing, they start to feel that they feel much more upright. You can notice this possibly that you feel that the chest moves away a little bit more from the pelvis, or the vision is a little bit higher, or the breathing is easier. There's many ways to notice that if this is something that happens to you. Change over the legs, bend the knees once again. And once again, we'll do it the same way. Lift the front foot, front of the front foot, knees bent, and then lift the heel. Okay? You can be, if you need to do it so you keep a rhythm, you can do it faster. And on this side, immediately we'll go into the swing, meaning when you come forward and you put the front of the foot down, pull in the belly, the weight will shift onto the front leg, the lower back will get longer, and you come off the back foot and the heel, and as you return into the heel, you lift the front foot, leave the knees bent, make an arch in your back, but not extreme. It's not extreme in any direction. And you go back and forth, really easy. Boom, boom. And whatever you do with your knees, some will lengthen one knee and push with the other one or get it longer. It's fine. See if you can keep them to whatever degree bent as you do this. Wonderful. Great. And now come and stand. See what it feels like in your standing. See what it feels like in the breathing, the legs, the gluteals, the feet. And before we take a walk, bend your knees and see what that is like now. See what it's like in the hip joints. See what it's like in the direction of the knees and the ankles. Does it feel softer? Do you spontaneously go down more easily and returning more easily? 3 or 4 times is plenty. Stand and take a walk around and see what you feel like in the walking. Walk in a circle. I'm doing this so you can still see me on camera, but you can walk in a straight line wherever you like. So this was an introduction to how to develop the basic swing. There are other elements that can get built into this as you studied the solvents and glue. So the clarity of what happens in this basic swing gets more and more. There are more elements that keep on getting added through the head and the shoulders, the upper spine, the arms, that we continue to use and develop and build into all the elements that I was just showing you. But the basics of what we did is the swing. So I hope you enjoyed that. In solvents and glue, there are many different aspects. As the expression goes, it's the solvents and there's the glue. There's something that dissolves and makes something smoother, easier, more flexible. And there's other things that I call the glue, which sort of holds things together, keeps us more solidified, gives us more stamina. Could say more resilience because you have to go over different territories when you walk and up and down stairs. The muscles work in very, very different ways so that you need more glue, particularly as you're getting older, but also for younger people with all different types of issues that they want to manage. So we do this in the standing, and we'll do a little bit after what I'm going to show now. In the standing, we call the beginnings of pressing. There's whole sections in solvents and glue pressing. The basics of solvents and glue in terms of the workshops, in terms of the seminars, it's up till now been divided into 2 segments of a part 1 and a part 2, each one over a course of 4 days. We also use, which I'm going to show now, in the 4 days of part 1 and the 4 days of part 2, we do things that relate to different kinds of weights. I do this related to books. There's different suggestions and questions why books, but I have lots of books. That's how it started. I find them very useful in terms of the weight distribution, as you'll see as we'll go along for the different exercises. Today, I'm going to demonstrate one. In part 2, we do a lot more with the upper body. Part 1 is much more focused at the beginning on the lower body, even though we do things through the whole entire body. Part 2, we very much use one of these rings to do many different exercises, much more related to the upper body. We also use them for the lower body in certain exercises on the floor, even though the majority is done in standing. Okay. So I'm going to put this aside for a moment. And you have to have a few books. I have some thick books here. It's good to have some that have weight. Okay. Not too much weight, not too little weight. This depends on your condition. So what you do is you just sit in a comfortable way in the front of a chair. It's good to have a harder chair, not a softer one. And just roll your pelvis backwards and roll your pelvis forwards, as if you were in and a nice comfortable chair and you're sinking backwards, there's different ways to do it. There's one is that you sink backwards and your whole body goes backwards. And the other is more or less you stay over, your shoulders stay over your hip joints, and you just sort of sink over yourself, and then you arch your back, just like we did in the swing, forwards and backwards with the lower back. And stay. And now with one of your legs, with one of your knees, just lift it from the floor and see what it's like, how high it lifts. Some people lift more to the outside. Some people lift directly upwards. Some go a little bit inwards. However you do it, however high it comes, whatever it does, whatever it feels like, do that 2 or 3 times. Now, take one of your books. What you want to do is you want to put it on your knee, more or less on towards the front of the knee, not on the thigh. If I turn myself a little bit, you can see I will put it more towards the front, not in the middle of my thigh, so that the weight of the book goes directly down from the knee towards the foot, towards the heel. You can use your hands to hold the book, and then keeping the book on the knee, you lift your knee, you put the same knee that you just lifted, and you do it 4 or 5 times. Do it 2 more times. Excuse me. Put it down, take the book off, wait a moment, and then lift your knee up. Oh, and see what happens. Some feel, oh, it goes a little bit higher. Some feel it goes quicker. Some feel it's a little bit lighter. However it is, it's fine. Stay. And then for a moment, just roll your pelvis backwards and forwards, and see, some of you will feel that on one side, it actually goes a little bit easier backwards. Good. Come back. Take your book once again. Put it. If you felt it was too light, you can put another book and put it on top. Don't make it too heavy. Okay? If it's too heavy, fine. It's not good to have magazines. You want something hard. Leave it on your knee. And once again, 2 or 3 times, lift it up. And on the 3rd time, stay with the book in the air and try to keep it at a certain height, and then roll your pelvis back and forth. Okay? So you want to keep the knee a certain distance from the floor, same distance of how you lift it, and whatever you do, however you do it, you roll the pelvis. If you go all the way back, or you just do a little, is fine. Try to go backwards and forwards. And that's plenty. Take the book off, put your foot down, and once again, try to lift the knee and see what that's like. Boom. With me, you can see it goes quite a bit higher. I take it more to the outside, but it can also come high and go up. It also feels easier to lift. And now roll your pelvis backwards and see what that's like. Great. And sit a moment. And now, what I want you to do, take 2 books, so it's a little bit heavier. You're not going to be lifting them. Put them on the opposite knee. And take your first book, put it on the same knee that you had, same book, same weight. So you don't change the weight that you've been using. Okay? And on the opposite knee, you do put heavier. Okay? And do the same thing. Lift the knee a few times, the one that you've been doing. And after the 3rd time, leave it up in the air. And now roll your pelvis forwards and backwards again. You can sink, you can do it with your head if you like. You can keep the shoulders over the pelvis, or you can go backwards like you're sitting in a comfortable chair 4 or 5 times, keeping the knee, if you can, at the same height. And put the leg down, books off, books off. Try lifting your knee and see what it feels like. Now, some people will just feel, oh my goodness, my whole pelvis moves more, my whole body bends more, knee doesn't go higher. Some feel it goes even higher and closer to themselves. You can try, and you like, if you can even take the knee and see, does it come even? Stay, roll the pelvis backwards and forwards and see what that's like. Great. We did this on one leg. You feel the difference, most people, in the movement, but not so much in the sitting. But let's see what it's like in standing. So come and stand up. See what your standing feels like. Both legs. And walk around and see what it feels like. The stepping on one leg, the knee of the other leg. Some will feel more balance on one leg and the other in the stepping. There's all different possibilities of a sensation. Let's come back and do the other leg. Go back. I would suggest to use the same, excuse me, same book that you did on the first leg, unless one knee has a difficulty and you wanted to make it lighter, or the opposite. Okay. Now, what you want to do before you put the book on the book on your knee is, of course, on this side the same thing. Lift your knee and see what it's like. Now, some will notice already that the pelvis moves more backwards because of what they did on the other side. Stay. Roll your pelvis backwards and forwards. See what that's like. Some you can sink the head if you like. Also fine. You can also open your knees when you come forward. Close your knees when you go back. That's also fine. Take the book, put it on your knee, and start to lift the knee up and down. And after about 5 times, you leave it down, take the book away, and lift the knee and see what it feels like. I've done this so many times, and every time it feels so nice to lift the knee. It goes higher, goes lighter and easier in the hip joint. Roll the pelvis. Also, even for me, look, I go even farther backwards and come forward and let the knees open. Excuse me. Come back, take your book, put it back on the knee, and lift the knee. This time we'll only lift 3. You can do it 4 times if you like. Leave it at a height that you can manage. Doesn't have to be so high. And then roll the pelvis backwards and forwards, leaving the knee at the same height. So if it's low, it's fine. If it's very high, it's fine. However you can manage. Just don't change along the way. And you roll the pelvis 4 or 5 times. Plenty. Take the book off. Wait a moment. Once again, lift the knee and see what it feels like. And not only notice the lightness or the height that it lifts to, but notice what do you do in the pelvis, in the other hip joint. How high does it come? How much can you allow yourself to go backwards or bring yourself towards the knee? And roll the pelvis. See what that's like. You can open the knees. Some like to open the knees when they go backwards, close them when they go forwards. Some like to open them when they go forwards and close them when they go backwards. Some just leave them where they are. Any way is fine. Let's come back. Take your heavier books, put it on the opposite knee. First book, as always, and lift the same knee we've been doing 2 or 3 times, or 4. And leave it lifted. And once again, roll the pelvis. So, like I said, and I repeat, you can keep the knee as high as you like. It can be very close to the floor. It can be very high from the floor. But whatever height you start with, keep it. Don't keep on lifting and lowering. The whole idea is how to keep that knee stable in space with this weight on it. Put the foot down, take the books off, both sides, wait a moment, and see what it's like. See what it's like in the lifting. See what it's like in the rolling. See the height. You can also take your hands and see how that feels like to do. And then after you've done it, leave the foot on the floor. Roll your pelvis forward and back in any way that is nice for you. Some of you will feel that the knee is really open a lot more. And see what your sitting feels like. Now, some afterwards, many people report after doing this that they feel themselves more upright and more on their sit bones, that they can feel the pelvis more present in the sitting. And now come and stand up. See what your standing is like. And walk around and see what it feels like. So this is an example in the Solvents and Glue of how to use books in a sitting position. We do this in many different positions in sitting. We also do books related to use of the arms and on the floor and being on the side and lying on the side. There's many different positions we use and many different ways that we do it for developing a type of isolation, stability, and flexibility. And now we're going to go on a little bit of a demonstration and introduction to the whole, what I call pressing and releasing. And this develops as it moves on day by day in the practice of JKA. You start to develop a certain type of a tone or a building up, you could say, of the muscular rigidity, or you just feel it a little bit stiffer. And people need this as they go along, and it helps us to do certain exercises. So we're going to do just a few to get a flavor of this, and we'll also see how this connects up with what we just did with the books. Come and stand. And bend your knees once again and see what that's like after doing everything you did with the books. And see, does it go easily farther down? And you put yourself over the weight of your feet, either more forward or more backward. Is it easier to come up? You don't have to go down. It could just be, maybe some people feel that the bending is a little bit easier. Come and stand up. Take a step forward. And let's remember this movement of the pelvis, the swinging of the pelvis itself, and going into the lifting of the foot, the front foot, and the back foot, the heel, and back and forth. And we try to go into this swing. Find the distance of your legs, one to the other, back and forth. If you need to put your hands to feel how to move, or to bring it from in front, or to bring it from behind, feel free to use your hands. Come and stand. Change over your legs. Bend your knees. And on this side, you can either start by shifting of the weight. There's different ways to start. You can start by just lifting the feet, heel and foot, and rocking, and then starting to move the pelvis to find your way. However you find your way back into this basic movement, go right ahead. Doesn't have to be fast. Some will feel it goes very smoothly now. Others still feel hesitant exactly where they're going. However you do it is absolutely fine. And now, come and stop, stand. Change over your legs. Bend your knees. Do your swing a few times, and this time not so fast. So that when the next time you're going to start to lift the front foot and go into the back leg, you're going to leave the front foot down, leave the heel down, and then slowly straighten your back leg. Okay? And as you straighten it, sort of you lean into it and sort of push into the floor so the leg stays straight, and you sort of push into the leg. Stay there for a moment or two, feeling that you have a nice stance on the front leg, which is bent, back leg is straight. Press, and then as you come, we're going to go back into the swing. You're going to shift your weight forward, bend the knee, lift the heel, and go back into swinging. And then once again, the next time you have the front foot down on the floor, you're going to leave it. You're going to slowly go into the back leg, put the heel down, and then straighten the leg. And as you straighten the leg, you start to press into the floor as if you want to push down into the floor. So you have a real solid stance, press into the floor, and see if you can maintain a little bit of this press as you return yourself into the swing. So it's sort of, you got to bring it off the floor, whoop, and then goes into the swing. And we're going to do that one more time. And this time, next time you're going to go forward, leave the front foot down, back heel is up, leave your knee bent in the front leg, go backwards, so you shift your weight into the back leg, and then start to straighten the knee. Bring yourself so you can feel you press into the floor, not only with the front of the foot, but also with the heel. Okay? Get a real straight leg and press in. If you need to put your weight into it, go ahead and do that. We did this much earlier to feel the weight back and forth. Press, hold, and then as you start to go, we're going to go back into the swing. You want to bring the heel off the floor and go back into the swing. Great. And come and stand. And see what it feels like to stand on the leg that you were doing, which was the back leg, the pressing leg. So there's many different types of pressings that we do. This is sort of the basic introduction towards it. Change over your legs. Bend your knees. Notice what it feels like on the front leg now after doing what you did. It was the back leg before. And go into your swing. And here, next time you go forward to the swing, you leave the front foot down, back heel is off, and as you shift yourself backwards, the front foot stays down, back heel goes into the floor, and then you start to press so you can straighten the knee, feel your heel. And you can see my front knee is bent, my back leg gets straight, and I press into the floor. Some do more, some do less. It's fine, however much you do. And then going back into the swing, it's sort of you try to keep that press, so it's sort of like, oh, it's going to come off the floor, and yeah, then it comes off, and you go into the swing. 2 or 3 or 4 times. And then once again, the front foot goes down, heel comes up, shift the weight back, heel goes down. Some bend really nicely in the ankle, some don't. Straighten the knee, press into the floor, keep the front knee bent, have a real solid stance. And then pull the heel off the floor slowly and into the swing. Pelvis will come underneath and belly in, and we'll do that one more time. Front foot down, heel comes up, weight goes towards the back, heel's going to go down, straighten the knee, push into the floor. Great. And once again into the swing, slowly get that heel off, keep on pressing, and there you go. And swing. And come and stand. Take a breath. Change over your legs. Now we're going to do something about the same press type of a press, introduction to this pressing, whole theme into the front leg. So again, knees bent and swing to your swing, however you find that. And this time what we're going to do is we're going to go into the back leg bent. Heel's going to go down. Front foot is going to come off the floor. And as the front foot comes off the floor, we're going to leave the back knee bent, but you're going to straighten the front knee. And as you do this, you push with your heel into the floor so the front knee straightens. And you push, you can lean into it if you want to feel that and make it solid so you feel solid back leg, solid front leg. And you push, push backwards. Push, I exaggerate, push. Leave it. And now, once again, it's the same. As you come forward, make sure you're going to bend the knee. Foot is going to come down to the floor and swing. Once again, next time, front foot comes off the floor, heel goes down, knees are bent, front foot comes off, back heel is down, pressing into the front heel, straightening the leg, and press. And go back into your swing. And come and stand. So we're going to do the front leg a little bit less pressing than the back leg. I'm going to do just 2 times. There are different types of repetitions that we do throughout the solvents and glue, the different exercises. Sometimes we do repetitions of 3. We do certain countings of the amounts of repetitions that we do and the times. And this is useful for either the isolation components, the building up of a certain type of flexibility, or building up of what I call a certain type of this glueness, this tone, this sort of making it more stable, rigid in the muscles. Some people, in terms of the age, the muscle doesn't really build, but it can become more rigid to hold better. Change over your legs, bend your knee, and swing. And once again here, leave the front foot off the floor, knees stays bent into the back leg, heel down. And as you have the heel front of the foot up, you push, push, push to get the leg straight. You keep it there so you feel this foot, front foot, back foot, they're both stable. The back foot is the one that's supporting. The front foot is pressing backwards, but really not moving. And slowly put the foot back down, go into the swing. Do 3 or 4 times. And the same thing as you go back, front foot stays off the floor, heel is down. Start to press into the front heel. Push, 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 push. Depends, some people will keep themselves more up. Some people will be more over the front leg. However you do it, you can put your hands on quadriceps, the front muscles of the leg, and see, are they getting hard? Are they staying that way? And go into your swing. And come and stand. And now that we did this a bit, we're going to do one more to see how it progresses a tiny bit, to use it in the swing, to feel how the pressing turns into more of a push. So change over your legs and go into your basic swing. Make it nice and easy. But this time, as you swing backwards, push a little so the heel gives you a little more push backwards. And as you go forward, push a little bit more into the back leg so you come more on the toe. So it's a little push, 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 push. So it's a little emphasis. Now you don't, I'm showing it as if it's a little bit bing, bang, but you make it fluid, but it can be soft push, light push. It can also be push, 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 push. Great. Come and stand. Wait a moment. Take a breath. Change over your legs and go into your swing. And once again, as you go back, push a little the heel. As you go forward, push from the back leg. Once, the other. One and the other. And see, do you get a little bit more push off on one and the other? And does this movement of the pelvis feel easier to do than when we started it and learned it in the basic introduction into the swing? And come and stand. See what you feel like. See if you feel more upright. How do your legs feel? What's the breathing like? And then do what we did at the very, very beginning throughout what we've been doing. Bend your knees and see what it feels like. See what the down is and what the up is. Doesn't necessarily have to go down further. Just might be just a different sensation of the holding, or see if you can go down further, however it is for you that you want to notice. Take a walk around. So what we've done is we've taken a little bit of a look, and I've introduced you into the basic swing of the solvents and glue, the basic elements of developing the swing. There's more that goes into it as we do a seminar on developing the swing. It goes over a few days, and all the elements that relate to the whole body, from the head, hip joints, shoulders, back, knees, and ankles, go into the aspects of building up the swing. We looked into a little bit about the use of the books and into the use of the pushing and pressing into the aspects that deal a little bit more with the glue. Hope you've enjoyed it. Hope you come and join us for one of the seminars that we'll be doing. Hope to see you. All the best.